About 5 weeks after you were conceived, you had a tail, 10 to 12 vertebrae, curling out below the base of your spine. By week 8 it was gone, reabsorbed, and the instructions that built it were switched off and left inside you. They were never deleted. Almost nothing in evolution ever is. So here's tonight's experiment. Every living thing on Earth starts running its evolution in reverse. The planet stays where it is. The physics is untouched. Every creature keeps the body it went to bed with. Only the direction of travel flips. What if I told you the first thing you'd notice has nothing to do with dinosaurs? Evolution runs on generations. It edits the instructions handed to the next one, and that's the entire mechanism. Nobody alive gets modified. Your body is finished, and it stays finished. So the reversal arrives quietly, as a subtraction spread across thousands of years. And the order of that subtraction turns out to be strict. The most recent changes come off first, because they're the ones sitting on top of the pile, which means the first thing humanity loses is milk. Every mammal on Earth stops digesting milk after infancy. That's the default setting, and it was ours too until roughly 10,000 years ago, when herding cultures in Europe and East Africa independently evolved the ability to keep the enzyme switched on into adulthood. On the geological clock, that's 5 minutes ago. It's the newest paint on the wall, so it comes off first. Within a few thousand generations of the reversal, dairy stops working for everybody. Cheese becomes a poison. The Tibetan adaptations for thin mountain air unwind next, and the highlands empty out. Skin tone across northern Europe drifts back toward the ancestral state. None of this looks dramatic from the outside. It's the most recent work coming off in the order it went on, and the further the tape rewinds, the bigger the pieces get. Give it a few million years and the ocean starts handing things back to the land. Whales began as four-legged land mammals. Around 50 million years ago, there was an animal called Pakicetus, roughly wolf-sized, with 4 working legs, hunting along the edge of a shallow sea. Its descendants widened their hands and feet into paddles, lost the legs entirely, and grew a tail fluke. Run that backwards and a blue whale is a land animal in progress. Hind limbs reappear first, which is less far-fetched than it sounds, because they never entirely left. Modern whales are occasionally found with the remains of tiny hind legs still buried inside the body wall, tens of millions of years after they stopped being useful. Those buds grow into working legs, while the tail fluke shortens behind them, and the blowhole begins migrating back down the skull toward the tip of the snout, retracing the path it took on the way up, and eventually something the size of a bus hauls itself onto a beach and does not go back. At roughly the same depth in the tape, the sky changes. Birds are dinosaurs, and their ancestors had teeth, long, bony tails, and clawed hands. Living birds still carry the developmental pathways for all three, inherited and switched off rather than thrown away. The reversal throws those switches back. Beaks shorten into snouts, teeth push through the gums, and tails lengthen into something a pigeon would struggle to explain. By this point in the tour, the planet genuinely looks like a rewind, which is exactly when it stops working. Put your fingers on your throat. Underneath them runs the recurrent laryngeal nerve, which operates your voice box. It starts at your brain, and to reach a muscle sitting a few centimeters lower, it travels all the way down into your chest, hooks underneath the arch of your aorta, and climbs back up your neck. In a fish, that same route is a straight line, past the heart, to the gills, with the heart sitting conveniently along the way. Then vertebrates grew necks, the heart migrated down into the chest, and the nerve stayed snagged underneath it, because unhooking it would have meant taking a living animal apart, so the nerve simply got longer. In a giraffe, it now runs 4.5 meters to cross a gap you could span with your hand. Now try to reverse that. To put the nerve back, you would need the heart to travel back up through the chest, past the loop, without the animal dying while it happens. There is no sequence of small, survivable steps that does it. Evolution got in through a door that only opens one way. The reversal reaches this and stalls. The obstacle is physical. There is no route back. Touch behind your ear. Inside sit 3 of the smallest bones you own, and 2 of them, the malleus and the incus, used to be jaw bones. In reptiles, those same bones hinge the jaw to the skull. In your ancestors, they shrank, drifted backwards, and were repurposed into hearing. You are listening to this sentence with modified fish equipment. Reversing that means walking 2 functioning ear bones back out of your ear and reattaching them to your jaw, through hundreds of generations, none of which are allowed to be deaf or unable to chew. This is what Dollo noticed in 1893. An organism never returns exactly to a former state, even back in identical conditions. It reads like a law of physics, and it's really a description of what happens when every intermediate step has to survive, which changes what the reversal actually produces. Whatever can unwind does, and everything else stays exactly where it is. What you're left with is an animal wearing pieces of two different eras that were never meant to meet. A whale with working legs and a blowhole halfway down its face. A bird carrying a mouthful of teeth it has no jaw muscles left to use properly. Animals running fish nerves through mammal chests. The world jams halfway into something that never existed and can barely stand up. Keep running the tape, and the losses get structural. Flowering plants unravel, and with them go fruit, and most of the pollinators that live on it. Grasses retreat. Then plants themselves pull back off the land entirely, because land plants are a late invention, and the continents return to bare rock and thin crusts of algae. Deeper still, multicellularity comes apart. Bodies aren't a thing anymore. Every lineage dissolves back into single cells doing single-cell business in shallow water. And then the atmosphere goes. The oxygen you're breathing was put there by cyanobacteria, starting around 2.5 billion years ago. It's a waste product. Before that event, the air had almost none, and the sky was a different color. Run photosynthesis backwards and the oxygen drains out of the atmosphere, which matters not at all by then, because there is nothing left alive that needs it. The tour ends in warm, shallow water, roughly 4 billion years ago, with one molecule capable of making copies of itself. And then the reversal takes the last step, and it stops copying. That's the whole reel, played backwards. 4 billion years of fossils and extinctions, and working eyes and lungs and wings, wound down to a single chemical reaction in a puddle, switching off. One last thing, and it isn't about dinosaurs. The reason the tape jams is the same reason you exist. Evolution has no draft stage. Every change gets made inside a living thing that has to keep working through the change, so every fix ends up stacked on top of the last one and stays there. That's why your nerve takes the long way. A heart moved 400 million years ago, and the detour has been getting longer ever since. There is no back to go to. There is only the pile, and you are standing on top of it. There is a fish inside you, and nothing was ever able to take it out.